everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Around the Shop. This one's going to be all about the brakes on the Bee. As I was putting the rear end back together, I noticed that my brakes on the left-hand side were the gear was slopping all over the place. So I started digging into it a little bit, and if you can see here, my bushing, my brass bushing that's in there is pretty well shot. Unfortunately, because of that, this shaft is not in good shape at all. I would call this one unusable. So I went to the parts shed and I dug out what I could find, and I had a couple more assemblies out in the parts shed, which would be these two right here with those two drums. They were better, but I'm not sure how much better. And so I started looking at what parts would cost me. And it was going to be well over $600 to get both sides fixed up. And so I found a parts tractor on Facebook for $150. I went and bought that tractor. I was just across the border into South Dakota. I figured it had enough parts on it that even if the brakes weren't any good, I could get $150 back out of the parts. So really no loss there. But that is one of the brake assemblies, and that is another one right there. Of course, the shoes are frozen to the drums, so I got to try and get those apart to see what things look like on the inside. Unfortunately, the casting is broken on this one, as you can see right there. So I really don't want to install that one on the tractor, which means that if the bushings are in good shape, I'm going to have to try and knock the bushings out of those ones and knock them into a different one. I would like to try and use my original ones here, just because everything is freed up on them. On the other four assemblies, everything is stuck. So that would be the target or the goal. So I will have to try and get them bushings out. Those stupid bushings are like, there's one on the top and one on the back side, or one right here and one right here. Those stupid bushings are like $150 a side, and so buying new bushings is something I want to try to avoid. And I'm not expecting it to be perfect, like new fit, but I would like it to be to a point where it's not wrecking parts like we've got going on here. So we'll see what I can come up with. I'm going to run over to the brother-in-law's shop and use his press to see if I can get these two apart, and then I'll be back with you. All right, guys. So I got the newish brake assemblies apart. I did end up breaking a couple of the adjuster pins, but I've got plenty of those parts laying around, and those old ones were not going to come out anyways, so it's really no big loss. That being said, the bushings in those ones are better, substantially better, but I don't know how I'm going to get them out without wrecking them. So that being said, I did some measuring, did some Googling, and basically decided that I was going to try and order some bushing stock. That's going to be very close to what I need. And so I ordered two 2-inch pieces of bronze bushing stock that is 1 3/8 inside diameter, which is all the smaller it can be and still clear the gear teeth on the shaft. And so it'll be a little bit loose on here, but this one is awful close to 1 3/8. And then it's 1 5/8 outside diameter. So that's where it gets a little interesting. What I really needed was 1 9/16 to fit inside of the hole here, but nobody makes that apparently, and so I'm either going to have it turned down, or my first thing that I think I'm going to try and do is rig it up on a drill or some sort of rotating tool, and then take some emery cloth and just try and polish it down. Now I know that's a lot to polish off, but it is bronze or brass, and it is softer than steel, and so hopefully hopefully I can take that much off and get them into the holes where they need to go. I'm not too concerned about the bushings on the other end because the shaft really doesn't feel wore at all, and so that shouldn't be an issue. I'm going to leave those ones alone. But that's where we're at with the brakes. When I get that bushing stock in, we'll pick up where we left off here. All right, so this is the bushing I got off of eBay. I already did one, so I know it's gonna work. It's a lot of freaking work to do it. It takes way longer than I was hoping, but the bushings, these for 2 bushings was 20 bucks on eBay. For 1 bushing from Deere, I think was almost 100 bucks. So I'm gonna show you guys what I did here. I took a rubber stopper, drilled a hole through it. I tried to get it in the center, but it's not quite perfect. Definitely would have been better if it had been perfect in the center, but I didn't take the time to do that when I was drilling my hole like I should have. Another rubber stopper on the top side with an all-thread bolt, another fender washer, and then I'm just going to crank this nut down, and basically that's going to hold that bushing. It'd be nice if it held it square and straight and all that fun stuff, but not quite the case since the holes aren't perfectly in the center, but it's done. It did good enough on the first one, so I'm just going to leave it be. So now I'll just get that good and tight to suck them stoppers in. And we're going to go ahead and chalk it up in the drill press here. And of course I cannot find the right freaking key for this drill press, so that makes it not so much fun to chalk up stuff like this. Most of my drill bits have that 3-sided deal, so if you don't get it super tight, it really doesn't matter a whole lot. But so now from this point here, it's just running the drill press. I've got a few different tools I've been using. When I first started working on it, I was using the emery cloth, and that was working so stinking slow that just wasn't going to work. So now I have a file that I have to go grab that I was using. That was also working fairly slow. So the other thing I've actually been doing is taking my angle grinder here and just spinning that, and while that's spinning, just taking my angle grinder to it. Not the most consistent of options, but honestly it's the one that's been taking the metal off the fastest. So I'm actually going to start with that, and then I'll use the file to smooth it as best I can, and then the emery cloth to polish it. Alright everyone, I've got my second brake back together here. I did end up taking a little bit too much off of the bushing this time, and so we'll see what happens. I was looking for some retaining compound to try and put in there, and I couldn't find any from anybody that was open, so I used JB Weld. We'll see how well that works, but I'm going to take a paint marker and make a mark on the bushing here, and then I'm just going to slide it in and roll the tractor back and forth a little bit, check my mark, and just make sure that bushing isn't turning in the housing. But if that's good, eventually we're going to need to get the adjusters loosened up because they need to be tightened a little bit so the brakes work better. But for now I need to get it back on the tractor and get this thing out of the shop so I can get the next project in. So thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions at all, please leave a like, comment down in the comments, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.